So basic to baller building blocks for leveling up your campaigns. Guys, this session is specifically about things you can do to your existing campaigns to make them better, okay? So hopefully you're in the right place. Okay, so how many people have launched an Infusionsoft campaign? Better question. How many of you have never launched an Infusionsoft campaign? How many of you have tried and started, but you just got stuck somewhere and you never pressed the launch button? That's fine too. So you are probably familiar with, or at least you will be, these are the only building blocks in the campaign builder. You have goals and you have sequences. You've probably seen complicated spiderweb campaigns. You've probably seen ones that scroll on and somebody has like moved the screen to show you what's on the other part of it, right? And sometimes it feels intimidating when you look at a giant campaign that big. What does it do and why does it do all of that? But if you boil it down, every campaign that's ever been built is just goals and sequences. And there's something reassuring about knowing those are the only two variables. Now, there are lots of types of goals and there are lots of things that can happen in those sequences, but at the end of the day, it's just goals and sequences. And they work like this. You connect your goal to your sequence. It's basically action, reaction, action, reaction. And you chain them together, and that is how you build campaigns. And it doesn't need to be those robust and spiraling and sprawling campaigns. It can be, but that's not where you should start, right? If that's where you want to end up, that's great, but let it evolve over time, okay? If you can wrap your head around this, action, reaction, action, reaction, then you can master the campaign builder. It's that simple, okay? If you're thinking it's not that simple, it's because you're making it harder than it needs to be. At the end of the day, these are the only things that are in the campaign builder, and how you assemble them is totally up to you. Okay, so here are some irrefutable truths. Growth to humans or to businesses, it happens in stages, right? And we've all experienced that. Where you are, whatever stage you're in for your business or your personal life, right? You were in a different stage a year ago, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, and in a few years from now, you won't be in this stage anymore, okay? The reason I point that out is because here's a quote from Heraclitus. No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man, right? Some of you have probably heard that. Okay, the reason I'm including this here is because I believe that this really encapsulates your relationship, all of our relationship with our campaigns. They are a product of of the tool and our understanding of the tool. At the time you build a campaign, right, it's limited by both what the tool can do and how you understand that tool. Does that make sense to you guys? So my point is, every campaign that you have built or launched or had built for you, the person who built it, whether it was you or someone else, could only use whatever the tool was able to do and the way that they understood the tool. And for that reason, it is really important to go back over your campaigns and figure out, why did we do it that way? Because it may be that you have a different perspective. It may be that you have a different lens now, and you wouldn't have made the same choices. It also may be that you had to cobble together some sort of workaround because the software didn't do what you wanted it to do, or a plugin didn't exist, right? And a couple years later, if you revisit it, there may be a much easier way to get the same result. Are you guys with me? Okay, so technology and people evolve. I kind of view it as these two independent paths, right? The technology and people are both moving, and at the various times they intersect, right? You have a certain understanding of marketing or your business, and the technology is at a certain point. As you continue to develop, so too does the tool, and you can use your new perspective and the new features and functionality next time you recircle to that. Fair? Totally fair. Thanks, guys. Okay, so I spend a lot of time, as I'm sure many of you do, thinking about driving my business forward, right? And I think that's kind of the nature, especially of events like this. We come here and we get these ideas for how we can progress, how we can move forward, how we can add new things into our business. And I feel like it's this constant chase where we're trying to get to whatever the next milestone or the next shiny object is. Anyone else feel that way? You're trying to figure out whatever, the SMS or messenger bots or whatever the next thing is. You're just constantly moving on, right? And it's complicated. To take an idea all the way through to launch, this is freaking hard, okay? This takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of focus, and many people fall down short somewhere along the way. But if you've ever launched anything, if you've ever gotten to that point of launch, you should congratulate yourself, and you probably need to start asking, okay, then what? Because this is where I find everybody focuses, is that progression. How do I take this idea and get it to the point of launch? But I feel like there's this area of opportunity after you launch. How do I make this even better, right? If you've got your first version out there, terrific. You should commend yourself for that, and you should be really, really proud. But you also have an opportunity to say, how could this be better? And what would I do differently, knowing what I know now or knowing what the software does now? So here's just a process for you, right? Instead of thinking of it as that progression, after you launch, I believe there's a process where you measure, you analyze, you optimize, and then you circle back to launch, right? Does this seem familiar? A lot of you are nodding your heads. You've either seen a graphic like this before, or you've had this conversation. I actually stole the language here from a friend of mine, Justin McDonald. He's the president over at 6th Division now. So these are his words, but the concept is the same. Launch, measure, analyze the metrics that you measured, and then figure out how you're going to streamline it even further, and then relaunch, okay? And I think that's where people get stuck. Does anyone look at this and feel like that's not appealing to you? Because that's sort of how I feel. When I look at this, I feel like I'm running in circles. Like you're on a hamster wheel and you're just circling back to the same thing. It's not sexy to go back to your existing campaigns. Sometimes it's frustrating to go back and be like, shit, I already built this. Why am I guess I'm going to swear, so we already crossed that bridge. I feel like if I've already built it, why would I go back and layer that in, right? Why would I go back and spend more time on that when it's already out there and it's live, right? And here's why. Instead of thinking this as a hamster wheel, instead of thinking this as a circle that like ends nowhere, right, which would be frustrating, flip it on its side and think of that same process as a coil. That every time you walk through it or every time you circle around, you're one level higher. So if you go through that process, launch, measure, analyze, optimize, and then relaunch, you're not back where you started. You are, but it's like a parking garage where you're on the next level now. And then you're on the level after that. And I believe, you know, as many of you have heard, there's like a V1. Version 1 is better than version none, right? And then you launch again, and there's a V2. And then you launch again, and there's a V3. And all the while, you're moving up, okay? Are you guys with me? Does this make a lot of sense? Okay. So if you're thinking, cool, that's great, where do I begin? I'm going to give you 8 tactics that I want you to use as a lens. If you have campaigns that are live, take these 8 things and ask yourself, could I add this to my campaign or campaigns? Okay? These are very actionable, small, bite-sized things. Some of them may not be new to you. I expect everybody will get a handful that they can take and use right away. Some of you might use all 8, okay? The first one is really, really simple. Go back to your campaigns and ask yourself, have I documented this? Right? How many of you are solopreneurs? You work by yourself. You're the boss, you're the marketer, you're the implementer, you're the troubleshooter, right? Of course. And if you are, you may not always be. And so it's important to have clear documentation for future employees, partners, and future versions of yourself. I don't know about you guys, but I have gone back to campaigns that I built and asked myself why something was there. Because I'm not the same person I was when I built it, okay? So on the very bottom of the Campaign Builder menu, there is a notes section. Raise your hand if you've never used that. The reason it is there is because you can leave documentation for yourself. Functionally, the notes don't impact the campaign. Your campaign will work with or without the notes. However, it will make your life easier if you learn to embrace these notes. For example, here's a Contact Us campaign. This is an actual screenshot from my app. And right there, you can see I've added a note. And I just put, hey, this web form is hosted at this URL. If you have web forms, oftentimes it's important to know what pages those web forms live on. And it would be great if Infusionsoft just natively did that. But until they do, leave yourself little notes. I also love to use these notes if you have multiple people working on a campaign so they can pass information back and forth. Create a to-do list on the Campaign Builder canvas and just delete things as they get done. It's perfect for transfer of ownership. It's perfect for training or tutorials. If you're building campaigns for customers and you want to leave instructions for how to use this campaign, that's what it's for. Links and important information, to-do items, training resources, and transfer of ownership, right? So those little notes, that's a simple thing. It's a built-in feature. It doesn't cost you any extra. It's just about developing the habit of going back to your campaigns and leaving yourself a trail. Did you know that those notes can also support HTML. So that means that you can make them pretty. You can put a border around it. You can give it a background color. I've got some thumbnails embedded here that open training videos. Would that be useful for anyone? Yeah, I'll give you guys, I've got a blog post with a swipe file for all sorts of code that you can use to prettify your notes. Prettify? Didn't think I was going to bring that word out in this presentation. Okay, so that's concept number one, is just leave documentation for yourself. Yes, sir?
How do we get that?
I'll figure that out. Don't worry about it. I mean, you can search my blog, but I'll figure out a way to package up some resources. Anything that I mention, I'll make sure that you guys get. Here's the next one. Do your campaigns need or deserve an exit hatch? Okay? When you build automation, it is designed to take someone through a journey. Okay? And usually there is something that stops that journey. I want you to buy, I want you to sign up, I want you to register for this thing, and then when they do the thing we're asking them to do, it stops automatically, right? That's the beauty of automation. But there's the other side of that coin. What if the person manually, just as a person, as a human, decides they're no longer interested? How do they say, I want out? Stop reminding me about your retreat, or stop reminding me about this event, right? I've made my decision, just let me out. Because right now, the only option for them is unsubscribe. And it may not be that they want to break up. They may not want to be off your list or out of your database entirely. So what I'm suggesting is that, here's an example. I have a referral partner program for people who recommend my courses. And at the end of that referral partner program, I have quarterly check-in emails, right? Where it checks in once a quarter. It says, here's your links. I've got some new resources in the resource center. And it just loops, right? So at the end of that, once a year, it pulls them out, and then it re-adds them, okay? And that's great, because most partner programs fail for lack of engagement, because people forget that they signed up. They're not, it's not top of mind. They're running their own business, okay? Now, the drawback to this is it is a perpetual loop. And if somebody decides that those resources are no longer useful, the only option for them to get out of there is unsubscribe. But they may want other content from me. So what I've done is I've added an opt-out here. And the reason that this is important is because it works two ways. If somebody emails me and says, Greg, thanks for everything you do. You have an amazing beard. I don't want your partner emails anymore. I can come in here and apply this tag, and it'll pull them out of the campaign, right? That's me saying, cool, this person no longer wants this. The other reason this is beneficial is because tags can be applied in a variety of ways. So I can add a link to my emails that applies this tag and pulls the person out, okay? So here's an example. Hey, so-and-so, this is a reminder. You may want to circle back to the Referral Partner Resource Center once in a while, et cetera, et cetera. Here's your login info. And then down at the very bottom, it says, if you aren't enjoying these periodic check-in emails, you can click here, and I will stop sending them. I actually have a second email that just says, is this valuable, right? And if you don't want it anymore, click here, and I'll remove you from this campaign. I'm giving people an exit hatch, so that they don't default to that unsubscribe. If you have longer sequences with lots of touch points, this is an important way to give your prospects or your partners a way to control the flow of information that they are receiving, okay? So what happens is they click that link, and you can see there is a trigger tag, stop partner emails. As soon as they click that link, it pulls them out of that particular campaign. Does that make sense? Can you see where that would be useful? Cool. All right, so they click that link, it pulls them out. Here's the page that they see. I built just a specific page that says, hey, cool, I get it. You don't want any more emails about this particular topic. I won't email you again, and I can use that tag to extract them. Pretty straightforward. I think that's a really good idea for any campaign where you want to give your prospect the choice of this isn't for me anymore. Okay, this matters because it allows you to reduce unnecessary messages. If all you send are automated emails, well, at a certain point, it comes down to the prospect to tell you what is or what is not relevant, okay? And this is segmentation 101, giving them the choice up front. Is the stuff you're receiving useful? It allows you to deliver more relevant content. If you send X number of emails and they remove certain ones that no longer are important to them, then what's going to happen is the overall message you are delivering will become more relevant because they've selected out of the ones that aren't important to them. It also encourages engagement. The nature of delivering more relevant content is it feels more personal and drives engagement up. This is the inverse or converse of that concept. We're talking about adding an entry filter. How many of you have an automated lead gen of some sort? You have an ebook, or people sign up for your blog post or something? Yeah? Okay. What happens if somebody signs up a second time? Does the same thing happen? By default, the answer is usually yes. And that's okay, but maybe you should ask if that should be what happens, okay? Here's an example. This is what happens when you sign up for my blog. I have a number of different entry points where you can subscribe to the MonkeyPod blog. I've got an empty sequence here to consolidate them. Everybody gets this blog tag. You achieve that goal, and you move on, and there's a confirmation, et cetera, right? This is my blog subscription process. At some point, I realized people were getting stuck in this sequence right here. And the reason was people were signing up a second time because maybe they forgot. Oh, I was already subscribed. They saw a post. They were like, man, this is really great stuff. That guy has a great beard. I'm signing up again. Okay? That's the second time I've mentioned my beard, and I saw one giggle there. I'm going to drive it home until you guys laugh. Okay? So the blog tag can only be applied once. So what was happening was people were queuing right here. So what I added was a filter, right? If they already have the blog tag, when they get to this point, send them down here. And the reason I did that is because it allows me to communicate based on what I know about the prospects, right? There's a lot of tools that do automation. Infusionsoft is, in my opinion, the best. And one of the reasons that I think it's the best is the segmentation power. If I know that somebody has already been down here, then I don't need to send them down there again. And so what I've done is added this filter that pulls them out, and it gives them the choice. It actually says, I don't know if I have a screenshot of the email, if you sign up for my blog twice, you can see it. But it says, hey, it looks like you signed up for my blog again. Sometimes people do that because they wanted whatever the links were that I sent you. There may be a reason. And if you want to go through that process again, just click this link, and we'll send you through. But it's created a separate but parallel experience because you don't need to treat everyone the same. If you know that it's their second time through, maybe it makes sense to treat them a little bit differently. Now take that same concept and extrapolate it out, right? If there are purchases, it's great to say thank you after a purchase. But to be able to segment and thank them for a second purchase or a third purchase, you might want to have a different conversation. If somebody takes the same action, the nature of automation is they get the same result. But the power of Infusionsoft is you don't have to have exactly the same recipe, right? You get to build in, should they experience something different? I call this an entry filter because at the start of every campaign, you should have a decision diamond that says, have they already been through here, or should they get something different? Okay, this matters pretty much for the same three reasons as before. Reduce unnecessary messages, deliver more relevant content, and encourage engagement, right? By preventing them from going down the same path that they've already been down, you're not sending them messages that they've already received, right? And if you're sending them something different, it gives you an opportunity to have a slightly different conversation. This is a relatively new feature. How many of you have started using the preview text? Yeah, it's a couple months old. The Infusionsoft has added the ability to add preview text. Some of you are like, get to the point. What's that all about? It's basically this section here. So this is a series of emails that are in one of my ebook campaigns. Rotating GIFs, sure, I think I can handle that. Actually, this is not what that is. This is a blog post. So here's how it looks in your inbox. You've got the sender's name, you've got the subject line, and then this section over here is where the preview text shows up. So without preview text, it says image, because I didn't have any alt text for that image. And then it says, Greg, last week I recorded a video. With preview text, it says, sure, I think I can handle that. It plays off of the subject line, so you get to have more of a conversation. The reason this is so important is because before they open your email, they only see three things. They see the name that the email was sent from, they see the subject line, and they see the preview text. And so that preview text should be designed to do one thing: get them to open the email. Now, the first sentence of your email, last week I recorded a video answering a question, that might be important in the body of the email because it builds to whatever is next. But that real estate in the inbox before they open the email is a very valuable time to interact. And so this is a relatively new feature. If you haven't, I recommend combing back over your campaigns and adding preview text so that you can have that conversation, driving them to open, increasing engagements. So this is the campaign I was talking about. It's for one of my ebooks, The 5 Lessons of Automation. A couple of entry points up here, and then down here I deliver some content. All right, so there's 5 emails delivering the 5 different lessons. And what I did was I just came back through here, and I added preview text, right? Like I said, this campaign is several years old. This feature is a couple months old. So what I did was I just added preview text where it builds off of each subject line and like plays into what the topic is and why they should open this email, right? There's a typo in that one. I spotted that like last night as I'm going through my slides. It's funny how that happens, where it takes like teaching people to go back and be like, oh, well, I shouldn't have done it that way. But here's the point. When I added all these subject lines or preview text, I screenshot, here's what my data in that campaign looked like over the previous year. So opens were at 35%, clicks were at 5%. Okay? Click to open rate was 15%. So the reason I'm telling you that is because that's my benchmark. I'm not saying go add preview text just for the hell of it. I'm saying go add preview text to see if it encourages people to open your emails, right? The only reason to do anything is if it's worth it, right? There has to be a return of some kind, and getting more eyeballs or more engagement is that reason. So in order for me to measure that, I had to take a snapshot of what does it look like at this time, okay? Now the reason I'm telling you this is because it ties back into our first tip. I put those metrics, the things we just looked at, on the freaking campaign canvas. Here's what it looked like at this date and time. Now you can actually adjust the date ranges and you can look retroactively to see what that information looked like. I want to see it as soon as I open that sequence. Okay? And then of course if you listen to the HTML part of that, you can make that look a little prettier. You can put that screenshot directly on the dashboard as well. So if there are changes you're making and your campaigns are getting incrementally better, why not have a running benchmark so that you can see every time you open the campaign what has changed and are we moving in the right direction? This matters because the preview text is one of 3 things they see before they open the email. It doesn't matter how great your copy is. It doesn't matter how engaging your buttons or your GIFs. Or it doesn't matter how good the stuff in the email is if they never see it. And so one of the 3 variables that get them to open the email is preview text. And now, only now, you have the ability to use that. So if you haven't yet, it's time. Multi-channel messaging. Okay, this is a concept that like sort of blew my mind, and I know that many of you are probably further down this path than I am. But email is a form of communication, and it is only one form of communication. And if all you depend on is email, then you're going to be limited to the amount of success that email can generate, right? So what I'm suggesting is if we want to, I think Tyler talked about strategy as being moving people from point A to point B. If you want to get someone from point A to point B, you can do that with a number of tactics and strategies, okay? The tools you use will increase your likelihood, depending on your market and your industry, of moving people along. So for example, here's a customer journey. I have a customer here. I want to go from attract, capture, educate, convert, deliver, repeat. This is a variation of lifecycle marketing. Many of you have heard that concept. If you've been in the Infusionsoft ecosystem for a while, lifecycle marketing might feel familiar. So the goal is I want this customer to go all the way down this path. And so I build this journey for them, right? And there's emails along the way that encourage them to take whatever that next step is. Right? I want them to first sign up for something, and then I want them to download it, and then I want them to schedule an appointment, and then I want them to buy, and then I want them to come back, and then I want them to become a partner, right? You should have some sort of progression, and you can use emails to do that. You can use emails to encourage them, but I would argue that you will be more successful if you also add additional channels. Multi-channel messaging means the same messaging reinforced across multiple channels. So for example, there are a handful of tools that allow you to sync your Infusionsoft lists with your Facebook audiences. So if you run Facebook ads, what that means is you can run different ads at different parts of their journey. So if the call to action here is download that ebook, then this Facebook ad supports downloading the ebook. If the call to action here is to set an appointment, then this Facebook ad would encourage them to do that, right? You can see where this is going. As the emails switch topics and progress, reflecting the stage of their journey that they're in, so too do your Facebook ads or your SMS messages, right? And so by using these different channels, what you're creating is a more cohesive customer experience, where the same thing, whatever it is you're talking about, is enforced in their inbox, it's enforced in their Facebook feed, it's enforced on their SMS, and there's strategies to each of these channels. You shouldn't just use them all the same, but they can supplement one another. Does that make sense? Okay. Oh, and if you combine them, right, it builds a more cohesive path. It's easier for that customer to follow because they know where to go. This matters because it allows you to reinforce important messages at key parts of their journey. Okay, like I said, Infusionsoft is, I believe, the world's most powerful tool for marketing for small businesses, the campaign builder specifically. And the reason it's so powerful is the ability to speak to people based on what you know about them. And it's not just what they've told you. It's also the actions that they've taken. It's the things that you can infer about them by those actions or by those lack of actions, right? So it's not just, what do I want them to do? It's what haven't they done? And if they get stuck somewhere, you can take advantage of that. You can add people who have not progressed to a Facebook ad where they start seeing a very specific message for a very specific part of their journey. Here's one of my favorite moves. It's called the Infusionsoft nudge. It sounds a little bit like a... You guys remember I don't know. I was going to say, do you remember 8 years ago is what I was going to say. Like the 2000s, the years 2001 to 2009. I don't know what that decade's called. Is it 2000s? Is that right? Okay, the aughts. Really? You just made that up. I'm on to you. So I feel like there was a phase in there where there were a bunch of like rap dances, like Soulja Boy had a thing, and there was, you guys know what I'm talking about? There were a bunch of like there was the stanky leg was a thing. Like there was just a bunch of those. I'm going somewhere, I promise. I feel like the Infusionsoft nudge was like a rap video, like gone wrong. It was like a really nerdy one, but like the nudge was like a move that people were doing. No, just me. Okay. Thanks for indulging me on that journey. All right, so here's how the Infusionsoft nudge works. It is designed to bridge any two actions you want contacts to take. So anytime you have two actions, I want them to click and then I want them to register. I want them to click and then I want them to buy. I want them to sign up on this first thing and then I want them to fill out the second page of that survey. Anytime there are two actions you want them to take, in between should be the Infusionsoft nudge. Okay? Here's an example. This is another actual campaign. Promotes the retreat. I offer a retreat. It's like a mastermind thing. And then right here it's promoting, and they either start their application or they say, no thanks, this is my exit hatch. They say, I'm not interested. Okay? That's a fine campaign. It works. It drives them. As soon as they do one or the other, it pulls them out. Here's the difference. I've added the Infusionsoft nudge here so that if they click, they haven't started their application yet, but they've expressed interest. And then they get into here, where I follow up with them on that application. And the reason that's important is because the people who are in here and the people in here have one thing in common. They have not registered. But they have one thing that is different. These people have raised their hand. And so to me, that's worth treating them different. If you know that they have taken part of an action, right? This is really what I care about. This is where we're going. But the conversation I can have here is less intense than the conversation here. I know people, the only way to get into this process is by clicking and not registering. So it allows me to be very targeted in the way that I message them, the way that I talk to them. Can say, hey, cool, it looks like you were checking it out, but you know, for one reason or another you got pulled away. Maybe the ice cream truck rolled by. I get it, okay? That's actually, I think that's what the email says. But here's the follow-up. It's just right there, that little section, and you can add that anywhere you have two actions you want someone to take. Here's that retreat application. This is later in the same campaign. It's a two-part application. You fill out that first landing page, and then there's a second part. But what would happen is people would fill out the first, and then they wouldn't fill out the second. And Infusionsoft doesn't let you connect goals to goals, right? It just kind of says you need a sequence in between. And the reason that I believe, or at least I tell people, that it enforces that is because it's best practice to add something there. Okay? It can be an empty sequence at first. But the goal is, once we know they're here, they've done this and they haven't done that, how do we get them to progress? And usually I'll put a 15 or 20-minute delay. Let's see if I have that, 25 minutes. And I'll just say, hey, do you have any questions? You know, did your website time out? Did your power go out? Did your water heater break, apparently? So it's an opportunity to follow up with them in the moment. You know that they just took an action 25 minutes ago. That's an opportune time to encourage them to take the next action. And then I have a 2-day follow-up where I send a different type of promotion that says, hey, here's a testimonial from somebody who attended in the past, and here's all the reasons that you should attend. Does this make sense? Yeah. Anywhere you have two actions you want your contacts to take, you should add a nudge that helps them take that second action. Oh, here it is. I did my best to tackle what I thought would be the retreat's most commonly asked questions. If there was anything else you want to know about, I'm more than happy to answer, et cetera, right? So that's what that message says. It's a very specific message because it's a very specific part of their journey. So why this matters is to optimize conversions, right? If marketing and our funnel strategy is designed to move them from milestone to milestone, then this is just a more specific or granular way of helping people progress. I treat this as a contingency plan, a safety net, right? If you look at this, in a perfect scenario, no one will ever see the emails in here. Best case is they fill that out, and then they fill that out, and then they move on. That's what I would like to have happen. But we don't build our marketing funnels for the best case scenario. We build it for how will humans break this. And somebody will fill out this first part and not fill out that second part, so that's why that nudge becomes so important. It could also be external or internal follow-up, right? Everything I've described is customer-facing, a nudge to them. It could also be a prompt for your sales rep to pick up the phone. Somebody, started the free trial but didn't request a consultation. This is a good time to ask them if they have any questions, to address whatever your most common objections are. It also could be multi-channel follow-up, right? It doesn't have to be an internal email or an external email or an internal follow-up phone call. It could be that you add them to a Facebook audience. It could be that you send a message. If you want them to register for a webinar and then attend the webinar, that's a great time to send them a text message saying, hey, the webinar's starting, right? That's one of the, I have found one of the lower hanging pieces of fruit with regards to SMS is just attendance for things. Okay. How many of you are using campaign merge fields and campaign links? Show of hands. How many of you have never heard of campaign merge fields and campaign links? A couple of people. A few others that won't raise their hands. That's fine. So campaign merge fields and campaign links are designed to make your campaigns easier, right? They were introduced like 3 or 4 years ago, and I will be 100% honest, I didn't get it. I didn't see the value. They rolled them out, and I was like, that's a cool feature that I don't understand. Why is this better than what I had? Okay? And I'm going to show you why, and it's probably going to blow somebody's mind. Okay. So the way that contact merge fields personalize an email for the contact, right? The way you could send an email to 100 people and you can say Jamie or Nathan or whatever, right? The way you can insert their information, campaign merge fields personalize the email for the campaign. Okay? So that means when you send an email, it can include the person's info as well as whatever the topic of the campaign is. And I'm going to show you why that's important. Here's an example email. The information coming from the contact record is first name, last name, company name. The information coming from the campaign is event name, event date, event venue. Okay? I wouldn't put this information on the contact record because it's a waste of contact custom fields. Campaign merge fields are for data that will be the same for everyone in that campaign, like the event that they are attending, the event date, and the event venue, right? Now, you could type it into the email itself. That would work. And for a long time, that's what I did. I'm going to show you why this is way better. Okay? Here is an email. You can see it's got a contact merge field, and it's got some campaign merge fields. Contact, campaign. They're in the same email, slightly different structure. Campaign merge field 14, campaign merge field 16. Okay? So when you send that email, here's how it looks. Hey, Greg, I hope things are going well at MonkeyPod Marketing. And then right below, your event details are right here. And it's got the event details merged in. Okay? No brainer. If you're sending event reminders, why wouldn't I just type that in? Okay? The reason, and campaign links work similarly. So you can link to a static location within that campaign. So if I know that I'm going to send emails about the Sheraton, right? Hey, here's our preferred hotel, the Sheraton, and it merges in the name of the Sheraton, and then it links to the Sheraton Hotel, right? All good. But what happens? Guess we'll get to what happens in a second. This is important because you choose links and variables that are unique to this campaign, right? You set them up right here on that actions drop-down list. Here is when you use it. When you have an existing campaign and you need to make a change to it. So in this scenario, people are expressing interest in the event. I'm promoting the event, they register for the event, and then they get event reminder emails. So let's say it's this event. Let's say it's SuccessCon, and it's coming up, and people are interested, and those emails are going out. The event is counting down. It's saying, go book at the Sheraton. Here's that link, right? What happens if the Sheraton sells out, and there are no more rooms at the Sheraton? So I need to default to a different hotel. So in each of these emails, counting down to the event, you can see there's a link to the website, and then there's a link to the Sheraton. Well, if the Sheraton sells out, what I can do is switch that link to the Radisson or whatever hotel, and automatically every email that was linking to that campaign link has now been updated. So if you need to change a variable that is in all of, if you need to change the event dates, right? I hope you don't have to do that, but if you need to change anything that shows up in all the emails, rather than combing through each of them, where a human will probably miss one or fat finger something, right? This allows you to reduce the opportunity for human error, and it streamlines your efficiency. So the second example is, what if you're promoting the event, right? And there's a link to, hey, go register for the event. At a certain point, what if you run out of tickets? Okay? You can change that campaign link to a cart closed URL, and anyone who clicks the link now is taken to a cart closed URL. You see where I'm going? You got a promotion page, you're driving people to sign up, and if you stop selling that thing or start selling something different, change the order form. Change the link that it's pointing to on the campaign level, and every piece of communication that was sending them there updates. This is important. This can change the URL of emails that are already in their inbox. So if you have sent emails to people and they have got that email but they haven't clicked on it and they're sitting around twiddling their thumbs, and then you sell out, you swap that link, that email is already in their inbox. At the time that they click it, it now goes to a cart closed URL. The reason it works this way is because any links in Infusionsoft emails redirect through Infusionsoft. That's why we have link tracking. So this allows you to swap out URLs that are already in their inbox. If you change your mind, you don't want a certain offer, or your event has moved, or whatever, if you update your campaign links, it updates where that link already exists. And any new clicks, right? It could be an email that they have already clicked on, and it used to go to one URL, and now when they click it, it takes them somewhere else. When I figured that out, it was like an accident. And then I said, wait, that's kind of cool. Okay. Example number 2, use campaign links and merge fields to make your own life easier if you find yourself duplicating campaigns. How many of you run events of any kind, webinars or live events or retreats? And if you run that same event a second time, you clone that campaign. To save yourself time, set up your campaign links and campaign merge fields, and then all you need to do is roll back over it and update those. You make a copy. There's your copy, you make your changes, you publish, and now it's got the new variables in there. It's not perfect, right? If there's paragraphs upon paragraphs describing the specifics of that event, it's going to be tough. You might have to go back and change some of that. But if all it is reminders, your event name, is coming up in a few days. Here's the event details. That's campaign merge fields and links. That's where it makes your life easier. Oh, yeah, if it's 5 emails, not a big deal. If it's 50 emails, you're going to want to save yourself that time. And here's the thing I want to point out. This is a muscle. It takes some practice to develop that muscle. You may wrap your head around campaign and merge field links today. You may decide, I'm going to start using that. But the first time you go to do it, you're not going to predict everything that should have been a merge field or should have been a link. It takes a little practice. But now what happens is when I build campaigns, the first thing I do is think about what's going to go here. And will this be something that I replicate? And will any of these variables need to change? If so, I'd rather change it from one central location rather than individual ones. Let's see how I do on time. Rafaela just gave me the 10-minute warning, and then she did one of these. Yeah, I'm not excited about that. Okay, why this matters. It saves yourself time, and it reduces opportunity for human error. That's really important. Yes, we all like to be efficient, but it also means you will be more effective. Campaign split testing. How many of you know that the Infusionsoft Broadcast Builder is going to get split testing within the next couple weeks? Okay, so split testing is super exciting. You can insert whatever random joke you want about how late it is or how 2009 wants their technology back. Yeah, I get it. It's awesome and it's coming and it's really pretty elegant. I'm pumped about it. It will come first to the Broadcast Builder. And then longer term, I expect that they'll bring that same functionality to emails in the Campaign Builder and maybe even like landing pages and some of the other marketing assets there. But first, Broadcast Builder. For the meantime, if you want to split test, there are some tools that will allow you to do that. Plus this, MyFusion Helper, Zapier, I believe Novak Solutions has a tool as well. Is that right, Paul? Cool. Yeah, so it can be done with third-party tools. What you need to decide is how important is it to me that we split test this. When I say split testing, I'm talking about the idea of comparing 2 similar assets. I want to send an email. How do I know if this one's better or that one's better? Right? I want to send people down a sequence, but is it 5 emails once a day, or is it 5 emails once a day would be a lot. 1 every day. Or is it, 10 emails over 20 days, right? Like, how do you decide how to build your campaigns? And the answer is you don't. You let data tell you. And the way that data tells you is through split testing, okay? So here is the simplified, low-tech version of split testing. If you don't want to buy any fancy tools, that's fine, okay? For a long time, I was like arbitrarily resistant to all of the tools and plugins just because I felt like, Infusionsoft is its own thing. Why do I have to buy all this other stuff to make it work? And so I just like resisted. I had an enlightenment where I kind of turned around and I have now purchased every tool on the market and I'm using them all to its extent. But here's how the low-tech version of this works. Event promotion A, you clone that sequence and you make whatever changes you want. You connect it to your register event and publish it. That means people who are in here will continue in here. And then you just change this form so it's feeding into that. And you could flip that back and forth once a day, once a week, once a month. You can manually route people between these two by just rotating where it is connected. Okay? I'm not saying this is perfect. I'm not saying this is the most sophisticated way to split test, but it is probably the fastest. You can create a second version. I call this switching the tracks. Okay? It's like, hey, if this was the track, at a certain point I'm going to create the second version and just route people into that. This is also really useful if you need to make changes to this, but you don't trust what's going to happen when you publish those changes. If you want to change the timing, or if you want to add elements or change the copy, but there's already people in there and you're terrified because Infusionsoft has burned you before, right? This is the way you get around that, is just clone that process and then change where people are headed. Switch the tracks. Okay. Set measurable goals, evaluate over time. This is iterative optimization. It means that each iteration has a new layer of learning and a new layer of improvements. Here are 2 campaign examples, things that I have built in my own business that demonstrate some of the tactics that I have just discussed. The first is that Contact Us campaign I mentioned earlier. I started MonkeyPod in May of 2015. One of the first things I did was build a Contact Us form. Got to have a way for people to reach me, right? And this was all that Contact Us form did. You can tell it's old because they don't even have traffic sources anymore, okay? So here's the opt-in, Contact Us form submitted, creates a task for me to follow up with that person and see if I can answer their question. Inside that sequence, this is literally all there was. This is a V1, and this is fine. It works. Heck, it worked for 2.5 years. Last fall, I decided to make some changes. I said, you know what, it's been 2.5 years. I should probably update this, okay? So here's what I did. I added a decision diamond, and I have 2 different confirmation emails. I actually started by putting the confirmation email in here, just saying, cool, you submitted the Contact Us form. Here's a copy of what you said, and setting an expectation of, I'll get back to you, in the next day or so. I'll read it personally, and if I can, I'll help you. That's what it says. And then I realized, marketing, shit, I got to market my stuff. I should probably promote something. I should probably give them a next action. What do I want them to do? Well, if they just opted in, I don't know much about them. But I do know whether or not they have already subscribed to my blog. So if they have not subscribed to my blog, they get an email that says, hey, thanks for your Contact Us submission. Here's what you said. In the meantime, lots of the most common questions are already answered on my blog. Go check it out here. But it wouldn't make sense to send that same message to people who have already subscribed to my blog, right? So down here, it doesn't have that promo. I don't even know if there is a promotion there, but the point is treating people differently based on what you know about them. So it took me 2.5 years to add the simplest of segmentation, but think about the customer experience. Not only do they get me to follow up with them manually, but now they know it's going to happen. They get an email letting them know it's been received, somebody will read this, and here's what you can do in the meantime. Actually, this one might send them to my YouTube channel. Okay, so when you launch campaigns, embrace that good, better, best mentality. Okay? Version 1 is better than version none. Get it live so that you can start learning from it, and then circle back to it and start making those changes. And then once you've done that, think about ways you can segment to speak to people differently, and think about integrations. I think about first, functional. That's the first thing. Will this campaign work? And then second, I think about customer experience. What's it doing for them? How am I talking to them? And then third, I go, what's my wish list? What would I dream that this campaign could do? and how do I add that? Here's another one. So this is my lifecycle marketing real-life delivery. It started looking like this. LCM real-life purchase. If they're already added to my customer hub site, they go down here and they just get the tags. If they're not, they get added and then they get this tag and then it delivers their content. That is V1. It's functional. You bought the course. Here is the course. No frills. Get it out the door. V2 looks like this. At the end of that content delivery, I delivered some bonus content, right? And in the bonus content, I either do or do not promote my MonkeyPod OG membership. But the logic here is to only promote it to people who are not MonkeyPod members, right? It doesn't make sense to promote something that they already have. So I have two different bonus sequences, one that has approach and one that doesn't. Here's the next version, V3. I added this branch. So this content delivery flows into these bonuses. But I also wanted to know, hey, how many people have bought today? And of those people, how many of them came from the free trial? And some of those reports Infusionsoft just doesn't do naturally. So I added a sequence that is specifically to apply and remove tags so that I can keep saved searches on my dashboard with those tags. How many people month to date have bought? How many people have bought from the free trial? How many people in the last 7 days? How many people all time? How many people have taken the free trial all time, right? And the reason I can do that is because I thought, cool, what do I want to know and how will I get that information? And the way is tags. So here's the V4? Yeah, V4. I added a survey at the end, right? So I have the bonuses, and then I asked them to take a survey, and then here's the survey, and then based on what they say in the survey, we either put them in a promoter sequence, a neutral sequence, or a detractor sequence. It doesn't make sense to treat everyone the same when you know different things about them. So the way that you do that is through segmentation, and it happens over time. It doesn't all need to happen at the same launch. Right? Don't let perfection get in the way of progress. All right, here is the last version of that. This is a second campaign that I built specifically to track engagement. I use plus this for video tracking, so there are benchmarks. If they watch 25% of the first video, or 100% of the first video, or I think maybe that's 50%, 100%, there's 3 courses, 3 modules in this course, and as they watch through it, they get tags that progress them along. The reason that's important is because I use this sequence, it's an Infusionsoft nudge, to encourage them to continue watching that course. My courses are freaking great, but they don't help you if you don't watch them. So I've built in nudges to encourage them to keep going. And then what this also gives me the ability to do is follow up with people who have completed the course, right? Only if they complete the course do I recommend, here's what's next for you. If they haven't started the course, but 3 weeks have gone by, I'm not going to send them an email saying, cool, here's the next course I recommend. It doesn't make sense for them. I did do that originally, and then I realized I can track how much they've consumed. And I can make sure that my next step's recommendation comes at a time that is logical. Your messaging will be more impactful if you use the information you know about them. Here's that email. Congrats on finishing. I'm able to speak to them very specifically because I know right where they are. And then here's the next steps I want you to take, etc. So here is my summary. Raffaella, you could start walking up here. I'm almost done, I promise. Start with version 1. Launch it. Get it out the door. Start learning from it. It won't be perfect, and you have to be okay with that. I know you're proud of your brand. I'm proud of mine too. But I'm also proud of how much I've launched and that I've had the discipline to go back and make it better. That should be your safety net, is you know you have the autonomy, the agency to revisit it. Revisit to mine data, extract those lessons, and turn them into improvements. Focus on customer experience. What is the experience we're creating? Because here's a secret. You are creating one already. The only question is whether or not it's something you've designed or something that's just sort of happened. Use integrations to layer in your wish list. What is it you wish this campaign would do? And is there an integration that you could add that then does that? So thank you guys very much for hanging out with me. This has been a blast. I love what I'm doing here, and I hope you enjoy SuccessCon. Thanks for being here at the first year. Yeah.